I flew all the way to Houston, Texas to try and win a super exclusive Best of Champion metal prize card for Jinx, loose cannon at the first ever Riftbound regional qualifier in the United States, a prize card that's expected to sell for about $40,000 to a private buyer, and this is my story. Today on Arcane Academy, we're going over my run with Jinx loose cannon at the Houston Regional Championship Qualifier, as well as taking a look at what the event had to offer as the first major Riftbound event outside of China. As odd as it is to fly to a major 2-day event without the goal of actually winning the whole event, I had different plans in mind. But before we start, we need to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, where you can get all of your Riftbound needs covered in one place from experts who have been in the TCG retail space for over 20 years. Singles, sealed product, accessories, and more, all 5% off when you use promo code ARCANE at checkout. And you can also sell them your extra cards and get a 25% trade-in bonus. So, everyone's plan when going to a tournament is usually to win the whole thing if they can. So what was I up to?
I have the best intentions!
Due to a very unique structure at this event, the incentives were a bit different than your usual tournament. Like most major card game tournaments, the Riftbound Regional Qualifier was run in a fairly typical manner. There were 9 rounds of Swiss for the 1,347 players, with a cut to top 64, single elimination to determine a champion. $6,000 to first place, a trophy and a title, and some amount of qualifications to be determined later is all pretty normal stuff. However, they were all of them deceived, for another part of the prize pool was made. In the land of Los Angeles, in the fires of Riot Games, Riftbound game director Dave Guskin forged in secret a master prize. One prize to rule them all. Well, not one prize, but 16 in fact. In one of the coolest prize structures I have ever seen for any TCG tournament ever, Riot made one unique metal version of each of the 16 champions currently in the game. These are called the Best of Legends, and they are given to each of the 16 players in the event that were the highest finishing player on each of the 16 champions. What's awesome is they are also legal for play, as your legend never gets shuffled in any way, making them the ultimate way to bling out your deck. Now, for some of these, like top meta decks Kai'Sa, Annie, and Master Yi, this likely means the player who did the best in top 8 or even won the event. But for others...
Jinx? Stands for Jinx! Durr.
Once I saw this prize structure, I knew almost immediately what my goal for this tournament was going to be. League of Legends, Riftbound, and card game fans are crazy, and the word on the street is that these metal best of cards would likely fetch 5 figures on the open market, making them at a minimum twice as valuable as the $6,000 first place prize in the event. So it was settled. I was going to fly across the country to play in a card game tournament I was not going to try to win. So, why Jinx? Frankly, Jinx just isn't very good when compared to the other top legends in the game. Legends like Master Yi, Kai'Sa, and Annie barely have to put in any work to get a major benefit from their legend powers, as you just need to be defending with units or putting spells in your deck, and you're a large part of the way there. This means the better players in the room were very likely to gravitate towards other options, and there would not be very many Jinx players overall. As you've seen in our Jinx deck building video, which if you haven't seen, you really should go watch, building a functional Jinx deck is tough. I have seen a number of different versions besides my own, and there is zero consensus on almost any part of the deck build. This difficulty is either likely to scare other players away from playing the deck, or mean they're likely to build their deck poorly. On top of being difficult to build, Jinx is surprisingly very difficult to play. She reads like a simple aggro legend, but she has more of an aggro combo vibe. Managing cards in hand is difficult. When to discard, when to get aggressive with power costs, and when to throw away cards for tempo are all exceedingly difficult questions to answer, and Jinx does not have big game winners like Thousand Tail Watcher or Dead Bloom Predator to save a day when things go wrong. You've got to scrap for every single win. Like most players, I started out with the 3 champion starter decks, and while Jinx was by far the weakest of the 3 out of the box, it was also extremely fun and challenging to play. As such, it's the deck I have played the most and worked on the most. While there are plenty of Kai'Sa or Annie deck lists I could have picked up before the event, the reality is that between 3 YouTube channels and 2 kids, there's no way I was going to be the best or most practiced player in the room playing any of those decks, and part of good prep is knowing your limits. Lastly, and not really directly related to the game itself, is the popularity of Jinx as a character. Between being a popular champion on League of Legends, as well as one of the main characters in the hugely popular show Arcane, the Metal Jinx Best of card was likely to be in very high demand and fetch an extra high price. It was the perfect confluence of factors, and with this goal in mind, I was off.
I'm bringing guns to the knife fight.
So of course, the big question before the event was, what was my deck going to look like? I left New York with my deck looking a lot like the deck list from my prior Jinx video, but when I got there, was hit with quite a curveball. Out to dinner on Thursday night with my good friend and Riftbound designer Frank Scarron and some of the other Riot Games folks, Aaron Barrick drops the bombshell, her Jinx list. Aaron is a game designer on Riftbound now, but was a terror on the Magic the Gathering scene on the SG Tour back in the day, and known for her love of scrappy aggro decks. Aaron's deck is a clear example of the lack of any sort of consensus among Jinx players. 0 traveling merchants, 0 scrap heaps, 0 stack deck, and a rather psychotic and all-in plan of just putting it all in play in the first 2 turns and trusting the loose cannon legend to push you through. I played Aaron's deck in a side event on Friday and found it even more difficult to play than normal Jinx, and ultimately felt that there were too many bricks in the deck to be so all in. I'm also not a Seal of Rage believer either, as all of your cards need to do something, and you're fine playing on low runes. However, I did really like her hidden package, so with that in mind, I registered this list for the main event. Teemo, Scout, and Tide Turner both did a great job at allowing you to dump your hand onto battlefields, while also making the game very hard to play for your opponent. Otherwise, the deck is pretty much what I had in my previous Jinx video, so if you want to hear more about that deck and my card choices, check it out. But enough about prep, it was time to do battle and win that metal card.
I've got a recital, and everyone's invited.
For the event itself, I would continue my trend of only ever losing to Kai'Sa, which is a very difficult matchup, given how well Hextech Ray and Falling Star line up against what Jinx is trying to accomplish. I would beat Annie, Teemo, and Master Yi with my other 6 rounds of 9 all being against Kai'Sa. This unfortunately was about double the expectation, with Kai'Sa being 1/3 of the field. Pretty much every Kai'Sa match was super close, and I would steal some wins, with my 4th round against Kai'Sa being featured on the coverage and fortunately ending in a very close loss.
Jinx, the Demolitionist, with a double discard of Flame Chompers. We have no runes anymore, Aaron. But the Fight or Flight from hand also just gets the job done and puts it back, which means this could potentially be the game here.
Yeah, passing the turn here, Jinx in the zone. Jim, not even drawing this card, just being like, I have this.
All in all,
you
though,
are,
I would finish with a record of 6 wins and 3 losses. Not good enough to make the cut for day 2, but that's not the goalpost we're looking for. Only 23 of the 1,347 players in the event registered Jinx, and they were the only ones that mattered to me. Had I beaten them out? At the end of round 9, word in the tournament hall was that there were 3 Jinx players, all at 6 and 3. I was in the hunt, but I was also in the nightmare scenario. Whoever was going to win this $40,000 metal card was going to come down to tiebreakers. This was a factor in my little metal card gambit that I had not considered. Tiebreakers for this event were game win percentage, meaning your personal game win percentage over the course of the event. This is different than something like Magic the Gathering, which uses opponent's match win percentage, judging you by the relative strength of all your opponents averaged together. Without knowing either other Jinx player's username, I had no way to verify my placing until Sunday, so I had to go to bed not knowing if I was the best of Jinx champion and $40,000 richer, or a tiebreaker casualty going home with nothing but a good story. Well, aside from the stress of not knowing, Sunday was a pretty good day. The event had some issues, lines and general consumer nonsense. Dealers were selling boxes at MSRP, so there was a mad rush for them. The merch booth had world boxes at MSRP, so the line was out the door. And there were non-best of metal tokens at the prize wall for far too few prize wall tickets, leading to huge lines and then an ad hoc lottery system on Sunday, which was pretty awkward, honestly, but it was great hanging out, watching the coverage, playing some games, seeing friends, and I even got to do what may have been the first ever Riftbound cube draft with Tom LaPilly's brand new Riftbound cube that he made. It used the normal Riftbound sealed deck rules with a pre-prepared cube, and I built a Victor Aurora deck that was awesome. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in seeing a video on Riftbound cube. But the weight of the day was in this tiebreaker result, and knowing my own tiebreakers weren't fantastic, I wasn't really jumping to see the final result. And unfortunately, it was not meant to be. While it certainly stings to lose out on a $40,000 card on a tiebreaker lottery, the event was still a blast. It was a real melting pot of card game players from across all different games, with a number of players playing in their first big card game tournament as well. As Riot is able to iron out the wrinkles, these tournaments are going to be must-attend events going forward, and I hope to see you at one in the future. So, that's all today here on Arcane Academy. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe for more great Riftbound content. Leave a comment with any thoughts or questions, and if you're really feeling it, hit the like button, hit the hype button, and show some love to help grow the channel. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.